Hello everyone! Today we are going to study countable and uncountable nouns, and we are also going to learn some quantifiers, that's it, words that help us to express the amount or quantity of something. First of all, we are going to learn how to differentiate countables and uncountable nouns. With countable nouns, we can use numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, chocolate bars. I can have 1, 2, 3, 4 chocolate bars. However, with uncountable nouns like the rice, I cannot use 1, 2, 3, 4 because it will take ages to count. I have to use the container, for example, a packet of rice, or the measure, for example, 1 kilogram of rice.
Here you have a table where you can see some countables and uncountable nouns. On the left, you have countable nouns. With countable nouns, you can use 1, 2, 3, 5, 20. For example, I could say, we have 3 bananas left. Or yesterday I ate 2 burgers. With uncountable nouns, you cannot use numbers, as in you couldn't say, I ate 2 rices, or I drank 3 milks. Instead, you need to use measures like kilograms, grams, liters. For example, I drank a liter of milk yesterday, or the container. For example, I have a jar of jam, or I have a bowl of rice. Now we are going to practice a little bit looking at this picture. Can you see countable and uncountable nouns? Look at the food that is inside a circle and think, are they countable or uncountable nouns? They are countable nouns because you can count them using 1, 2, 3, 4. For example, you could say, I have 3 cookies, or I ate 2 sandwiches. Now look at these ones. Are they countable or uncountable? Have a think. Can you count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 with them? They are uncountable because you need to use the container to express the quantity or amount. For example, I have 1 bottle of olive oil.
Now that you can differentiate between countable and uncountable nouns, we are going to take the second step, which is when to use there is and there are.
As you can see in this table, we use there is with a singular noun. For example, 1 book. There is a book on the desk. We also use there is with an uncountable noun. Sugar, milk, bread. For example, there is some milk in the fridge. On the other hand, we use there are when we are going to use a plural noun. For example, books, chairs, tables, all of them in plural. There are books on the desk. We can also use there is and there are in negative. In that case, they become there isn't for singular nouns and uncountable nouns. For example, there isn't any juice in the fridge, and there aren't for plural nouns. For example, there aren't any pens here. And what about questions? With questions, we do what in class we call ding dong ding, inversión sujeto verbo. So instead of there is, we have is there, and instead of there are, we have are there.
Finally, we are going to go over the quantifiers, those words that allow us to express quantity or amount. Pay attention.
with this table, we are going to study some of the quantifiers for countable and uncountable nouns. First, loads of. Loads of means mucho or muchos, and we can use it with countable and uncountable nouns. Some means algo o algunos, and is used with countable and uncountable nouns as well. Examples: there are some eggs, which means hay algunos huevos, or there is some sugar, which means hay algo de azúcar. Pay attention to this one because it's different for countable and uncountable nouns. When in English I want to say unos pocos, with countable nouns I need to use a few. For example, there are a few eggs, or there are a few books. However, when I want to express un poco in English with uncountable nouns, I need to use a little. For example, there is a little sugar, or there is a little milk. Too many and too much are used to express demasiado o demasiados. We use too many for countable nouns. For example, there are too many chilies. We use too much for uncountable nouns. For example, there is too much olive oil. Enough means bastante o bastantes, and it can also be used with countable and with uncountable nouns. There are enough chefs, or there is enough bread. So far, we have studied the quantifiers for affirmative sentences. But what about negative and interrogative sentences? Any is a quantifier that we use in English with negative sentences. For example, there aren't any eggs, or there isn't any sugar. As you can see, we use it with countable and uncountable nouns. We also use any to ask questions. Are there any eggs? Is there any sugar?
Today we have learned to differentiate between countable and uncountable nouns. We have also revised when to use there is and when to use there are. And finally, we have studied some of the quantifiers. We have studied loads of, too many and too much. We have studied a little and a few, enough, any. I know this topic can be a little bit confusing at the beginning, but I'm sure we'll get it. That's all for today. See you next time!